That stopped suddenly, didn't it? Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. Wow. Well, tonight we've got a special guest. And our special guest has come in fancy dress, dressed as a house, as you can see in the middle. And in front, he's got a gate because he hopes you won't take offence. I'm sorry about that. That's terrible. But welcome. It's Colin.
Dreadful.
And Colin is actually a paranormal investigator. Very interesting.
Good evening, Chris and John.
Hi,
Hello.
Colin. Nice to meet you.
He's also a historian as well of modern history. So if we do something on the naughty channel, which one of us is going to get a word in edgeways? I don't know. And then, of course, we've got His Royal Highness Sir John Hamer of the People's Republic of Scarbados tonight. But before we start the show, there's a couple of call outs. First of all, a big thank you. I went to the stand in the park yesterday in Cheshunt, and what happened is we just finished the Fockham Hall Times, the award-winning journalism, marvelous newspaper. It's best in the world, I think. But unfortunately, I had a bit of trouble with my printer because domestic printers are only built to sort of, shall we do, one or two prints, or not churn out hundreds. So after about 2 hours, I managed to, on my old printer, because the other two went up the spout, churn out about 7 of copies. And that's all. And it's sort of making flatulent noises. It's sort of, Anyway, when I went there, I expected, because it was all wet and rainy, thinking, well, only a couple of people have turned up. I think half of Essex turned up. I mean, there's loads of people. So I had to be very, very selective who I gave the Fockham Hall Times to, because I only had 7 copies. And Town Crier, hello, Town Crier, very kind of him. He kindly gave up his own copy for somebody else. And that was really good of him. So thanks, mate. It's much appreciated. It really is. It did help a lot. And also another call out is to our 2 researchers, because we've got the third one tonight, Colin. It's Ken and Ron, and they're a little bit Tom and Dick this week. Sorry, that's rhyming slang for sick. Ken's a bit under the weather, and poor old Ron is not very well. So if we can have some positive thoughts, and it helped with Shannon's pussycat, it did return. So we've got positive thoughts to Ken, who's in Kent, and we got Ron in Lancashire. So Ronald in Lancashire, the all positive thoughts, get better, mate, and everything else like that. So first of all, shall we kick off the show? And over to you, John. Put you in the hot seat.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It should be a great show tonight. Colin's obviously going to be the main guest. I'm going to be really kind of just sitting in the background, but I will chip in with little bits of things. But yeah, I'd just like to make a couple of shout outs as well. First of all, to Paul and Karen, my friends, if you're watching, hi guys. And also to another friend who's maybe tuning in tonight too, Gina. Hello, Gina. And welcome to the show, everyone. So yeah, without further ado, I will hand over the reins to Colin.
Thank you very much. Well, I've been investigating aspects of the paranormal and ufology for quite some years now. But I thought I would give a description of how I came to be interested and involved in the subjects. And there's no better place to start, really, than from the beginning. My parents bought a house in Salford in 1964, and they moved from a perfectly good residency in an area called Bolton. And my dad was quite restless, and he wanted to move closer to some of his family who lived in Stretford.
Sorry, Colin, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your sound, it sounds as if you're sort of in a dustbin at the moment with a lid on it. It's going in and out all the time. Yeah. we've had a bit of trouble with the sound because I think. So I hope you don't think I'm rude chiming in like that. But if we can't hear you, I don't think our audience can hear you. I think you've got an internet connection similar to what I had about 3 weeks ago, which is a sort of a hamster on a wheel. Yeah, 2 tin cans, a bit of string. Louise has just said having trouble hearing Colin. We tried with headphones. Is it possible to get near a speaker? Maybe should we ditch the headphones and try something like that?
Right, is that any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Right, okay.
Well, Karen, so your parents got this house, was it in the 60s?
Yeah, in 1964. And to describe what it was like, the area had been badly affected in World War II with bombing from the Luftwaffe. And many of the houses in the nearby area were quite in a bad state, but this one wasn't too bad. And Mum told me that when she went to get the keys off the previous tenants, is it coming through okay or something?
I think you've gone there.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah. I can hear you now. You're sort of in and out. One moment you can hear you very clearly, and the next minute you're gone. We got the keys. Sorry?
The joy of live shows.
Precisely.
I've tried to adjust the mic, but there's nothing else I can do.
Well, oh God, he's gone. Well, we're going to chat, shall we? He's got an internet provider similar to what I had. So we say, right, as Louise Wilcox, hello everyone. Hope everyone is well.
Hi, Louise.
And we've got Kevin Keener. Hi, guys.
Hi, Kevin.
And before I go any further, I think we get Colin back. Hello, Colin, you're back again. But what we'll do, we're just going through the chat, okay? And then we got Ralph Winter. Evening, Chris, Colin, and John.
Hi, Ralph.
And then we got the new world order is real. Evening, beautifuls. Yes, I spent a lot of time making myself look beautiful before the show.
Makes a change from evening ladies, but yeah.
John, my new wig is a see-through one. It's good. It's shoulder length. We got Ralph Winter. Hello, folks.
Hello, Ralph.
We've got Sean Hamer. Evening, gents. We've got Aunt Sally. Good evening, lovely people. Then we've got...
yes.
Oh, isn't that kind from Louise? Healing love to Ken and Ron. Oh, that's really kind. I'm sure they'll appreciate that because they're a bit under the weather at the moment, you know, and that's very, very kind. And then we've got Louise having trouble hearing Colin. Yes, so are we. Don't worry, it's his internet connection. I think they're listening in, saying, right, that sod's on the internet. Let's cut his bandwidth or whatever. Yorkshire Rose, hello. Sorry, a bit late. From, shall we say, North America, Canada. Good afternoon, by the way. It's in Canada. Yes, better. That's right. And then we got Kat. Hello, Kat. Hello, Chris and John. Good to see you both. And there's also Colin, when we can hear him. So shall we have another go with Colin and see if we can actually get a better sound with Colin, shall we? Okay. No, I like this one before we go any further. Never work with children or internet. Right, here we go. So over to you, Colin. Your mum picked up some keys for a house in the 1960s, so far away.
Yeah, can you hear me now, John and Chris? Is that any better?
That's much better.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's good. So what happened was, in order to contact the previous tenants of this property, Mum had to go and find them. This family were called the Tylers, and they'd moved to a house that was about to be pulled down. So Mum asked them why they'd moved out of a perfectly good house apart from the roof. There was always a problem with the roof. You know, why did you move out of this property and come here? And she just said family issues. Okay. So she gave the keys to my dad, and my dad went with my eldest sister at the time to the property. And in going into the house, he noticed it was completely painted black inside.
Wow.
So this house, with all the interior was painted black. So he came out of the house and he spoke to the neighbours next door, who would have been in their 60s, early 70s at the time. And he asked them what was going on. And they told him that the family, the previous tenants, had never had any luck in this house. That they'd been there about 7 or 8 years. Sometimes they would leave the property and not go back, then come back, and so on and so forth. Eventually, they told Dad that a woman had been killed in the house and she died in the cellar. And then it took some time for them to discover the body. There was a lot of cats around the cellar. There used to, as you know, there was the glass over the top. You will know the old properties, and the grid. And anyway, eventually, Mum and Dad decorated the property. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
I thought you couldn't hear me for a minute then.
For a little while, yeah, but it's okay. We can hear you now. Is everybody in chat okay? Can they hear Colin all right? Because somebody said it's difficult to hear Colin, so give us the thumbs up, please, in chat. So carry on, Colin. Sorry.
So eventually, they move into the house. So that would have been around about 1964. And in the first few days, they realised that the property was what we'd probably call poltergeist infestation. So, and this lasted for 13 years. It was very active around Christmas time in particular, but it would happen all year round, but not as much as around Christmas. And the way my dad was from being in the war, suffering with PTSD and so on, he didn't quite get on with it. The incredible thing about it was when he made chats with Dad about this and how he behaved towards it. It's quite fascinating, really, because he'd had 2 previous experiences. One was with his mother's house, and another one was at a farmhouse in a place called Saxlingham in Norfolk, and that was with people that he'd known previously to meeting Mum. And I said to him, "Well, why did you behave that way towards it?" Which I'll explain as best as I possibly can. For the 13 years of being there, this particular ghost, they like to refer to her as Mary, as that was the lady's name that passed away there, was incredibly active. And there was one night, I can talk about some of the cases that I can remember. There was one night where she was very active, or I shouldn't really say that because they don't know who it was. So I'll say she for now. Very active in the attic. And Dad would go out and bang on the hatch and shout and swear. And what happened was incredible. Mum said that the hatch opened and this black shape came down, went straight past them, but Dad didn't notice. He noticed the hatch opening, but he didn't see what came out.
Oh, from the loft?
So the black object came out, and I will tell you, I've seen one, so it's not there, but later on, years later, came out and went down the stairs and was making a noise, the footsteps going down the stairs. So Mum said to Dad, "Why are you still banging?" He said, "He's up there." She said, "Look down the stairs." He looked down the stairs, could see the black shape going down the stairs, could hear the footsteps. And I said to him, "You behaved, terrible towards it, really. You created a lot of these problems." And they started fairly fairly soon after them moving in. There was one night they're getting ready to go to bed. Mum's getting dressed, getting dressed into her pajamas, and she felt a hand on her shoulder. And she said, "What do you want?" He said, "I've not touched you." The hand was still on the shoulder and eventually went off. So there was plenty of interaction like this. My sister was in a room, the door opened. She automatically thought that it was either one of her sisters or my brother who was younger than them. And she's having a conversation and there's no one there. There's that kind of thing, that type of thing was happening under the bed, going under the bed, lifting the bed. Another night, they had a coal fire which could also put wood on. So Dad's downstairs, it's winter time. He said, "I'll sleep down here." So he's got the fire going and everything. To mention that during the day there'd been some activity, and Dad again shouting and swearing created what was to come. So eventually he goes to sleep. He's on the settee. He said he was woken up by scratching around the skirting board and the walls. Could hear this terrible scratching noise. And he thought it was rats. And incidentally, the fire's still going, but he said it was very cold in the room. I said, "Well, what happened then, Dad? You know, what occurred?" He said it threw me off the settee. It lifted the settee up several feet into the air and threw him off. So there was all kinds of things going on in the house. Up until
haven't you, Colin? Go on. You still there, Colin?
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. Well, we got photographs, haven't you, of something strange?
Yeah, those pictures, early 70s.
Okay, well, just one moment. We'll just show the audience the photograph. Is it okay to show it now?
Absolutely.
Right, here we go. Now, there's the two eyes, isn't there, looking out?
Yeah, that's when they did see what we'll call the entity. It would appear like that. So I don't know for sure if that's it or not, but my mum and dad.
There we are.
Yeah, my mum and dad and my sisters and my brother are fairly convinced that's what it is. On the original picture, we can see that there's two eyes there, and there's a middle light in the forehead. Because other people have said it's a cat, but it would appear to be like a cat, but not a cat.
Yes. It looks like sunshiny day. It looks like a bright day. Am I right there? There's no.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was what, early 70s it was taken.
I think it was just after I was born. Yeah, it's about 71, 72.
Yeah. That is very, very odd. And I mean, it couldn't be the flash from the camera hitting back, because you wouldn't have used flash surely in a bright summer's day.
No. Some people have even said, "Is it a car coming down the road?"
Again, it wouldn't have its headlights on, would it? I mean, as you can see by the shadows there, you can see around your dad and your mum, it's very bright, the day.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very
Oh, the activity there was incredible, and Mum took it far better than Dad did. Of course, my sisters and my brother, they were very frightened. My uncle came to stay once. He was harassed at night, and he got the cushions from the pillows from under him and threw them down the stairs. Would regularly close the door on my brother and close it so much that my dad had to put his shoulder to the door to open it.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. It was a lot of interaction, a lot of activity, and it could be very aggressive at times. And yet, when after all of that, and there's plenty more to discuss about it. Around Christmas time, one year, They've just done the Christmas cards, my mother and one of my sisters. Am I still coming through, John?
Yeah.
Yep. You're
Yeah.
still out clear. You know, I think whatever it is, it's probably attacking your internet at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as long as I'm coming through and people can hear me, that's
As long as people can hear, we can hear you loud and clear at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, so
wavering a bit. It's not perfect, but it's just about okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're being interpreted as being attacked in some way, but like mine was. But so this entity in your house, it was. You see, I've got a theory about entities, and this may sound a bit weird. Excuse me, coming in here, Colin, because you actually then went into became a paranormal investigator. I think possibly from your childhood experiences, but. Do you think now your dad had PTSD? My dad had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder from the war, and your dad was in the war as well. And when you think about what is war, it actually, some people say that wars are created to attract negative entities. There is something in a different entity. And I have a theory, and I don't really want to go too deeply into it, but I think that these entities people can unwittingly carry them. They can be very nice people, but they're unwittingly carrying them. And then the entity then is looking for a host to go into and to attack. Because I know a situation where somebody went through horror of war, and whatever this entity was did not affect the person, but it went into another person. And I'm just wondering whether your dad may have carried an entity that had actually gone into something in the house. Do you think that could be a possibility, Colin?
No, not really, because it affected the people that were the previous tenants.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
And that's what Mum and Dad had gathered from the neighbours, that the house was well and truly haunted.
Yeah.
And they bought a 4-bedroomed Victorian house. I think it was Victorian, for less than £200. So even in the 60s, that was cheap.
That is cheap. Should we just go into chat for a while? We store our thoughts because we've got some interesting people in chat. We've got here, hello everyone, there's Paul Hargreaves. Hello, Paul. And we've got
mate.
Louise. Now, this is an interesting one. Louise Wilcox, one spirit here, daughter called Harold. I asked her how she knew the name of the gent that used to live here. She said it was a guess, but he keeps playfully picking her. Not first spirit contact. It's interesting.
Picking her. What do you mean, Louise? I don't understand.
Yeah, sort of. I don't know. Hang on. We got the answer here. Picking, not picking.
Try again,
Quite a
Louise.
few experiences at mother-in-law's house, and hubby also very receptive to spirit. And we've got the town crier who runs Cheshunt Stand in the Park. So, as I say,
Hi, town crier.
hello. And I'll tell you something, it was, yesterday, it was quite a surprise. Me walking down there humbly with my 7 coffees thinking, there'd only be 3 people here. No. Whilst on that subject, it's good time for a plug. Do you reckon so? What do you think, Colin? Should we have a plug for the Fockham Hall Times, award-winning journalism? Why not? Right. So this is what's happened. Where is it? I've lost it. Where's the bloody thing? Oh, here it is. This is the Fockham Hall Times. It's the front cover, and we're doing a shock front appeal rather for the low IQ Pride movement. It will be available to be downloaded soon from the FockhamHallRadio.com, and please download, print, and distribute. And that's just the first page, but we're up to 8 pages, and there's secret negotiations going on to possibly have 16 pages. Oh, what? Okay, all award-winning journalists, because we give ourselves awards, don't we? Now, as you probably know, or may not know, we're getting corporate sponsorship, you see, for this show. Can you smell something? Is it cats, dogs? No, I think it's bullshit, actually. But so we're going to give everybody a surprise. Here is a surprise advert.
Mummy, why is your brain so soft? Well, dear, I watch mainstream television that fills my brain up with crap. Soaps such as Recton Enders and Boring Nation Street. I also watch Mr. Attenborough and also Dr. Brian's cock, who tells me meaningless drivel that I automatically believe without question. Those brains that watch mainstream are as soft as your thoughts with mainstream propaganda.
You're a loon.
Well, I felt a bit sorry for the mainstream, so I thought I'd give them a bit of a plug. You know, why not?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, you know, it must be hard for them, isn't it? You know, promoting all this and all that. You know. By the way, we also need to give a plug for something we did last night with the Naughty Show. We recorded the Naughty Show, didn't we, John?
We did.
And it was very, I would say it's marginally naughty. What do you think? Marginally naughty or very naughty?
I would say it's medium naughty.
Medium naughty. We
Yeah.
were talking about...
Well, you can't say it. Well, you can
oh,
say
by the way,
it.
we're talking about sort of...
Terrain theory.
theory. Yes, we can't really say it on YouTube, but
That's it, anyway.
I'm hoping to get it onto the Fockham Hall radio.com website, plug, this sometime this week, but I haven't put it on because I'm absolutely, between you and I, knackered at the moment. So also get it on BitChute. So next week we can show you the BitChute link and everything else like that, and there will be a BitChute link going on the Fockham Hall website. So that's the little plug we've done, and I've done my bit for the mainstream media, and we just have a quick look in chat and we go back to Colin. So let's have a look here. My word. We've certainly got a lot here. We've got here Yorkshire Rose, 100% agree with you, Chris. Oh, I like to be smug. Some houses have had a history of trauma, and an injured human can amplify this. Yes, good point. Poking damn speakins well.
Oh, yeah, she means poking, not picking in her previous post.
Poking damn. Yes,
Thank you, Louise.
Getting things into a bit of a, like me, I sometimes get my worms in a mucking fuddle. Sorry about that. Now, New World Order is real. I used to live by Robin Gibbs. Poor sod, did you? I walked past his house after day and night. Oh. In his window was a creepy doll. When I looked again, it would disappear. Then looked again, it was in a completely different
Place?
different.
Maybe?
It was in a completely different, I would think, position, location. Perhaps it was Robin Gibb. You never know. Oh, he's got the word window. Mind you, Robin Gibb, he did one nice. Was he in that sung Juliet? That was quite nice, that record. Yeah, that was in the 1980s. Show me age now. But I think he's croaked it now, hasn't he? Is he the one that's croaked it? I don't know.
There's only one alive. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah. Hatchie. Hello, Hatchie. Or if you got sat on the ants nest, it'd be itchy, wouldn't it? Sorry. Hi, Chris and John. I've asked Mark Devlin to get in touch with you. It would make a good show.
Yeah, I speak to Mark frequently, Hatchie. I know he's not doing any shows at the moment. He's so busy. His book's on the verge. His third book is on the verge of being published. So he's actually not doing anything at the moment.
Can you try groveling? Groveling does help.
No, I don't do
groveling. No. Okay. Now we got here. His house was also New World Order. His house was also by the local church, and the night the shadows from the gravestones would look like silhouettes of people getting closer to me. Blimey, that's a bit deadly, isn't it? I've got a story about that, about gravestones. And I'm glad Tancry likes it. He up. And we got Flat Earth as well. And Kevin Keener. Oh, they like the adverts, yes. There's going to be more adverts coming on, you know, later shows. Louise Wilcox, are there any rooms to rent at Fockham Hall?
We'll reserve the royal suite for you, Louise. So
Well,
whenever you just give us a day's notice, and
that's it. We're actually going to promote tourism. So you could say to people, where are you going this weekend? You can tell people you're going to Fockham Hall. Actually, it's terrible for people with bad hearing, isn't it? Because I think I'm swearing. Mark Devlin might have something on the heebie-jeebies. And the music industry. Yes, I remember the heebie-jeebies. They were better than the original ones, weren't they? Right. Well, it's lively in chat now. Colin, now I believe you've got a lot more to say about some of your, shall we say, as a paranormal investigator. You went to some very haunted places and had some very creepy experiences.
Well, yes, one of the places is what I've got there as the avatar. That's Chingle Hall. I went there 5 times in the 1990s. The first time there was 1996, and there was some very interesting experiences there. The first time there, I was talking to a friend of mine, Fred, and we was looking at some of the pictures on the wall, and they were of what the owners called ectoplasm. So they took pictures of where there was activity, and these shapes had come out, these black shapes and so on, and put them on the wall. And I said to Fred, jokingly, "Oh, it's all nonsense, this, isn't it, Fred? What do you think?" And behind me, there's a cast iron chandelier coming from the ceiling, and that started to shake. The chap that ran the group, that particular group was called MAPIT, Manchester Anomalous Phenomenon Investigation Team. He came in with some of the other people and stopped it, because it was swaying that much that he thought it would come off. It would come off the ceiling. Yeah, there was another time there was a voice heard, and it said my name. Footsteps. A coin dropped from nowhere onto the floor. A few things there. There was another time I was invited there. There was a TV crew. I can't remember where they were from. It was some cable channel, and we were setting up our gear in one room, and that they were outside at this particular time. And I was getting all my gear out of the bag, and am I still coming through? Okay, John and Chris.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I took my torch out of the bag, and the torch had gone very hot. So I undone it and took the batteries out, and the batteries were very hot, and I passed them to my friend, and it burnt his fingers. And there was another couple there. They said one of the rooms was active, so we went into the room. He said, "Do your prompting thing," because I used to talk to them, but that was a good thing to do. And activity in that room was incredible. It sounded like scratching and dragging, screeching noises. And my friend got out of the room quick, and I just stood there for another couple of minutes listening to this, and then vacated the room eventually. But yeah, there was a lot of activity there. It's a very old building. It was
I
built
believe
in
you had
11.
extra equipment, didn't you, used to set up so that you could sometimes it went through the roof, didn't it? I mean, I say went through the roof. You had a lot of technical equipment that would sense temperature changes, fluctuations, and things like that. Am I right there, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it would. Yeah, yeah. Things would malfunction on occasion. And another place that I went to was the Plume and Feathers. That was very active. Was only in there a couple of hours, and there was a growling noise.
That's interesting. Yeah, you told me about that. That's some sort of. That was a weird one. The growling noise.
Yes, yeah. I've experienced that here also, where I am now, where I'm residing now.
Well,
similar noise.
Paul has actually come in on chat and said Chingle Hall, this is Paul Green, closed to everyone now. It's a private residence now. I would not fancy living there.
Where is it, Colin? Chingle Hall?
It's in Goosner in Preston, John, but it was fantastic. Yeah. It really had a wonderful atmosphere, considering what had taken place there with the priest halls and I think it was the Reformation and so on. But it did have a really wonderful atmosphere. I was in the kitchen again talking to Fred, and the other investigators used to write things on pieces of paper, which to me was quite silly. It's not something that I would do. Somebody wrote something like, "I died 1789, expecting to get some kind of reaction." So I picked the paper up to take it into them to say, who's done this. And as I walked from the kitchen through the chapel, which is only quite small, the chapel really. It's a large room. I just walked through and got to the door, but all the way through I was followed because the coldness was behind me. The paper was blowing very hard. And as I got there was 4 or 5 other investigators, and they witnessed this, that the paper was blowing about all over the place. And then it went into me and disappeared. It had gone. And I said, "Did you see that?" And no one was really that bothered. That would have been something quite significant, I would have thought. But,
right.
Yeah.
What do you think of that program? And remember, there may be children listening. Was it called Most Haunted? I'll just show you. More than what? I think you could sum up in one word. Couldn't you, Colin?
The only thing about it was the locations and the equipment that they were using, and that was it.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say that program, Most Haunted. I think we could sum it up in one word, couldn't we? Which
4-letter word, though.
Yeah, 4-letter word, which would be unsuitable for children.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it was nonsense.
Yeah.
Just done for dramatic effect,
Yeah, I did that. Part of investigating John and Chris was going to really fantastic locations and being with some of them, not all. But most of the people that I was with, they were good, decent people. So that was great, and the paranormal would be a bonus. Not all the places that I went to did we experience anything. Most of the experiences I've ever had have been in residences. There's only been a few places. I've been to castles, stately homes, you name it, but it's not been that much really happened. Chingle Hall activity, maybe the first 3 or 4 times. But most of the activity that's happened to me has been, definitely resident where I am, wherever I've been as a resident somewhere.
It's very strange, and also, I mean, I actually saw a talk by Michael Bentine, the late Michael Bentine. He was the 4th Goon, the Goon Show, and it was the quickest, I think, couple of hours I've ever had. Very interesting man, and he did investigations into the paranormal because his father was a scientist, and his father believed that it was high frequency, but he believed, I believe, it was low frequency. And he was saying that this was during the Cold War. The United States and the former Soviet Union looked into paranormal a lot, the CIA as well. But going away from that, he was saying that, for example, uh, seeing spirits and things like that. He did a lot of research around Amazon tribes and that, and he said they took psychic abilities and that as just every day, like normal. They would actually communicate with each other, cyclically, and they just looked at it as normal, as if nothing out of the ordinary. And I often wonder, as we've got more and more away from, nature, less we see of things, because years ago our ancestors were highly intelligent people. They had to do farming, and they look on them as peasants and illiterate. Yes, they may have been illiterate, but they certainly had something upstairs, and they saw a lot of spirits. They discovered, and it seems throughout the world, most of the people that live, shall we say, I wouldn't say primitively, but live next to nature, like tribes and that, they all have a belief in spirits that we can't see.
Well, I actually think, Chris, sorry if I can interrupt just there, sorry to cut you off. I actually think it's been done deliberately. I think this ability, I think we all had it, and I think, we're still born with it, but it gets knocked out of us. It's been knocked out of us deliberately because they don't want us to know the real truth about what, the reality of the universe, for want of a better word. They don't want us to know those realities, so they knock this psychic ability out of us. And again, it gets knocked out of us when we're children as well. On that topic, there's a lot of children, very, very young children, I'm talking like 3-4-year-old maximum, who can remember past lives. And there's been, lots of documentaries, lots of research about it. And they seem to lose that ability to remember that past life when they hit the age of about 4. And again, I think it's I'm not sure, the exact mechanics of how the brain works in that respect, but I have come across a lot of stories about children who can remember past lives. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 TV programs about it, not that they can trust TV programs, but there is a lot of research that has confirmed that definitely does go on, and it's far more common than you'd imagine.
You're spot on there. And do you ever get the feeling, I call it deja vu, where you go to places? But I believe I've got HSP, which is a highly sensitive person, because I tend to pick up on things a lot. And I went to Shaw's Corner, which is in Hertfordshire, many years ago. Now, George Bernard Shaw, I used to think was a jolly nice chap, until I found out the truth. And there was something about that place that just freaked me out. I could not whatever it was, I don't know. I felt a very negative energy there. I really I don't like this. I really don't. And it's a kind of sixth sense. And I should think, John, Colin, do you sometimes pick up on you go into a place and you go, I don't like the look of this.
Yeah, I think everyone can do it to a greater or lesser degree, can't they? But
I
generally not out.
Do you get this feeling, Colin? Because there's also, we talk about ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them, of people. But what Michael Benteen believed is that buildings and areas were like tape recorders and would record things. And if the conditions were right, would play back. And they said there was something he investigated, I believe it was in Essex, where people saw, I think it was a nun that walked along, but she was several feet above the ground, and she was from the Middle Ages. And when they investigated it, they found out that the path had actually been lowered, and in the Middle Ages, it was the height that this apparition, or whatever you want to call it, was. Now, that is a possibility, but I half believe that, because I think a lot of these sort of spirits seem to be either wanting to interact with us, or they might be from a different dimension, because you do find that they reckon these schizophrenics, they hear voices and people think that they're mad, but it could be something. And there's I think that's a chap in America, Jerry Mowinski has looked into it a lot, and he was I believe he was he worked in the prison service, and he came up against a lot of these schizophrenics, and some of them were quite educated, and they weren't mental. it was these voices, these different areas, you know. Now, John, Colin, do you want to go into chat, or do you want to say a little bit more? Which way do you want to play?
Could I just say, Chris and John, that the paranormal experiences that Dad had was nothing to do with him, really. The first experience that he had, that happened at his mother's, and she gave him a room for the night, and he was hounded out of the room, really. And he waited in the kitchen that morning, and he said, "What's in that room?" And she told him that a young girl had died in that room. And he said, "Well, if you knew it was haunted, why did you not tell me?" So that was an encounter that his mother knew was going to happen, or possibly happen. The second one at the farmhouse in Saxlingham. This farmhouse during World War II had been used for children that had come out of London. So they evacuated the children out of London, and they stayed in the farmhouse upstairs because there was about 8 or 9 beds up there. And Dad had to move from bed to bed, and then eventually went downstairs and sat in the kitchen. And when his friend came into the kitchen with his wife, he said, "What's upstairs? What is it?" And he said, "Well, it's haunted." And he said, "Why didn't you tell me?" So it was the same thing as when we're moving to that house. It wasn't anything to do with him. It was to do with whatever has happened there previously.
That's strange. Sometimes though, people can act like a kind of bus or shall we say a jeep, where they carry something unwittingly, and they're like a carrier of something, and it may not come out in them, but this whatever it is they're carrying will go to somebody else, or whatever is looking for a kind of host, shall we say.
I know what you're saying, but that theory doesn't apply to this.
Yes.
This was people that had passed away, and their energies hadn't moved on.
Because I actually saw what I believe to be some form of ghost many years ago, and this was in the late 1980s. I worked in a fantastic place. It really was. It was a converted manor house. An architectural practice had actually bought this manor house in the early 70s and converted it into offices. And it had a long history because it was originally a timber frame building, and it had like a kind of brick facade on the front. And it was a children's hospital in the Edwardian times. And then it was converted into a hospital during the First World War for troops. I'm not quite sure what happened after the First World War, but this architectural practice bought it in the early 70s, apparently. And they did a very good job of converting it. But often you smell, is it ether? You know, the smell of hospital ether. And the caretaker said that you won't get rid of the smell. He said it's in the floorboards, so to say. But one evening, I was working late. I never got any bad feelings from this place, and I was never freaked out by it. And 2 things happened to me, which was very strange. I was working away, and it was the days before CAD and computers. I was working on the drawing board, you see, and I had the light on. Do you have a sort of drawing board light? And the lighting was a bit dim round in the corridor because it had sort of like offices, the central corridor. And you looked out the window, and it was absolutely fantastic views, sort of around Hertfordshire and that. It wasn't far from my house. Anyway, I was working away, and in the corner of my eye, I saw a little boy in Edwardian gear, you know, the little gaiters they wore and a hat. And he was sort of standing there. I thought, oh, it's probably one of the, because there's a few people working in offices along the corridor late. It was about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. It was a winter's evening. So I looked round, and he's there, looking at me. So I said, oh, hello, very kindly. Hello. He still looked at me. I said, you okay? So I quickly sort of looked round the drawing board, looked back again. He'd gone. Looked at the corner, completely disappeared. I thought, huh? Just bang, gone. So I mentioned it to the caretaker the next day, and he said, oh, that's little Jim or whatever. He said, yeah, I often see him. He said, it's a ghost of one of the children that was here. He said, I see him all the time. I'm seeing him all the time. He said, he's a friendly little chap. He said, I'm often. He said, I might be doing a job here, and I look round, and he's standing watching me.
Did you speak?
No, never spoke.
No, I mean to the other guy. Does he ever speak to the other
guy? Sorry.
The caretaker fella. Does he ever speak to him?
What, speak to the little boy?
No. Does the boy speak to him?
No, the boy is silent all the time. Never says a word. And he said he called him Little Jim or something. And he said people they know him, and I think some of the partners knew it as well because they work late and they'd often look up and he'd be standing there just looking, never said a word, and then you'd look around again and he'd gone, just disappeared, and it didn't harm you or anything like that. But that and my school that I went to was haunted by a German pilot. Believe it or not, and the caretakers there often saw this German pilot walking along the corridors, which is a bit strange because the school I went to was built in the early 60s. And apparently what had happened, I don't know whether it was what they call them, not a Hindenburg, an airship that come down, or a plane, because this was in border of Tottenham and Edmonton in North London, and I think aircraft could reach there in the First World War, but it's a First World War pilot, and he was often seen walking around the corridors. He must have been a bit confused because First World War to the early 60s, when this place was built, probably was a bit lost. Yeah.
Well, maybe he crashed there before the school was built, when it was just a field or whatever.
Yeah. It's very because there was the British Oxygen Company, or the BO Company, we called it.
Yeah,
it's around the corner, and he's probably on a bombing raid to bomb that factory because it had been there for years,
Right.
But anyway, Colin. Sorry,
can I just chip in with one very short interjection? I've never had a paranormal experience at all, other than one thing. When I was a teenager, I had a utterly terrifying experience with a Ouija board. And I don't even like to think about it, let alone talk about it. I was terrified for days afterwards. I was like, I was looking around corners and under chairs and tables, every room I went in, I was absolutely, and there was 4 of us, and we were absolutely freaked out by it. Just very briefly, I won't go into massive amounts of detail. We managed to contact this entity, and he was fine. He was chatting away. We determined that he lived in France in the 1700s or something. And then all of a sudden, he turned like malevolent, and he started sending really freaky messages. And the final thing that he said was, "Stop messing with things you don't know, you stupid children." And then the glass just literally shot across the room and smashed on the wall. And it was obvious that none of us had thrown it. It just absolutely, it sent shivers down my back now, just the memory of it. And this was like 50 years ago. So, yeah. That's all I want to say.
I had a similar one at seance when I was about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
The school I went to had a fair amount of East Enders, children from the East End, because I moved them out the East End to the suburbs.
Yeah.
And there was a road where they all lived, and they were probably the last generation that went hop picking. People don't realise that because the East Enders used to go hop picking in Kent.
Yeah. That was their summer holidays, wasn't it?
Well, they also, because they were very linked, I believe, and these were true Cockneys, they were linked with gypsies, a lot of them, and they were very much into all kinds of things. And a couple of the girls, because it was a mixed school, said, they said, let's hold it's kind of seance where, and it absolutely, again, it freaked me out, where they would lay someone out and a couple of people would stand round them and put their hands on this person, and then they would chant something, and they would say, there's been an accident, not like this, he's dead, but in a kind of chant way, and the kid would just scream blue murder. And one of the bullies said, "Yeah, come on, you don't give me like, well." And the teacher came along and said, "Okay, do it. Let's see it." I got surprised, And this was, I can't remember, and they laid the kid out on the desks, and this teacher watched, and they did it, and this bully absolutely screamed his head off. And this was the real sort of bully boy, crying his eyes out, and the teacher said, "That's enough, we're never going to have him to do this again, not doing this again." And there was one of the teachers who was into this type of thing. He said, "Never ever do that again." And I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced anything like that. I watched it, and I was only about 13 or 14, it scared the living daylights out of me. It really did. Has anybody else ever? I don't know what it is when they chant something saying there's been an accident, he's dead, or something like that, and it was a strange chanting they did, and they sort of put their hands on this person's body, and they did this odd chant. I've never seen anything like it before or after, anything like that. Does anybody know in chat? Do you know anything about it, Colin or John? I've never seen anything like it since.
One of my sisters told me a story when she was about 13, 14. She saw this young girl in a vehicle, and the young girl was waving to her and smiling. And she found out later that the girl had passed away months before. And that was around about the time of living in that house in Salford. So there was all kinds of things, but just replying to a few people in chat, I don't think that what was there or what's here or any of the other places I've been to has been evil. They've all been great with me. Never been anything bad. I think more than anything, they want to make us aware that they're there for a reason. For example, at the house in Salford, a woman had been killed in the cellar. She died there. And although her body was discovered and found, she was restless and she needed help more than anything.
Yeah.
Very, very, very restless. When my dad passed away at a previous residency, I could hear him in his room, but he went then. I could hear him walking about. I could hear him cough. And that house was haunted. So there's 4 places that I've resided in that have been haunted. Another time, another property. I was laying in bed. I was reading. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There's footsteps up the stairs. I thought someone must have broken in. So I turned the light out. I got my pool cue and bent down and opened the door quick because the footsteps stopped at my door. I opened the door. There's nobody there. Dad heard it. Also, he was awake, but he shouted to me. He said, "Who was that?" I don't know. He said, "Well, it was someone quite heavy." He said, "They walked along the corridor." And I said, "Well, I've opened the door. There's no one there." Another time at that same place, I was doing some painting. So when Mum and Dad would go to bed, I'd continue painting upstairs and getting bits done. And their doors were shut. They weren't breathing it in. There was a noise downstairs. It was as if somebody had come through the window and jumped on the floorboards. A real crash. I thought, what the hell's that? Put the brush down. Was about to go downstairs, and there's a rush up the stairs, cold air. So I just put everything away and went to bed. I thought, I've had enough. I've had enough for now. But I've never encountered any evil entities, thankfully. Never. Another time I was in a place, I was in bed. I felt shaking behind me in a woman's voice. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but she was shaking me. I just said, "I'm all right now, stop." I thought it was my mum, but I could not make out the words that I was hearing something, and it was some kind of communication, but I couldn't work out what it was. And then eventually it stopped. So
I've had similar, but Colin, I've had very similar. You can't hear the words. It sounds like it's a very distant party to me. It's sort of people talking, but you can't hear a word what they're saying.
yes, now, of course, at that house in Salford that my parents moved into and lived there with my sisters and my brother and me later on, it may not have been that woman that was there. It may have been something else, because I really don't know. To paint a place all black is normally bringing something in. So either those previous tenants had moved there, realised it was haunted, painted it black, and they wanted to bring something in. They realised that there was something there, and they wanted more activity or whatever. I don't know. I really don't know.
Should we go into chat now? Have a quick
There was another night, just before I go, chaps, because I've got to go soon.
I understand, yes.
There was another time that it was around Christmas time. They're doing the mum and my sister, they're doing the Christmas cards. They went into the parlour. I mean, the entire house was active. But on this occasion, they go into the parlour. My dad had put up some bookshelves. So on the bookshelves, you've got the books as ornaments and so on. And they witnessed a lot of books coming off, being placed down, and the other books being moved off, and ornaments moving across and up where the other ones were. So they'd replaced it. So they were. You understand what I mean? They were, whatever it was placing things about wherever they wanted to place them.
Very odd.
They're very powerful things, aren't they?
Incredibly powerful. Now, is it okay?
The whole thing about this is that if we know, I don't like maybe I've had a bit more experience than some people, but you both have yourselves. If we know about it, whatever rules the world knows about it.
Yeah.
You're spot on. You are spot on. Well, you've really got to see the. But be careful what I say here. Dennis Wise on BitChute, he did something about the Pentagon. I think that's all I need to say, actually. I better not say the title because the klaxons go off at BitChute. Not BitChute. Screw YouTube.
Something else for you, John and Chris. Very brief, but I think you'll find this very interesting. So in the early 90s, a friend of mine who had motorbike shops, he buys, he gets this building, and he said he's looking forward to it. It's going to be great. It's directly opposite another big motorcycle shop, which Deborah may know about because she's from Salford. It's called Queen's Park Motors, and he's very happy about this. And he's getting all his gear put in there. He's putting up his shelves and everything, and he's doing well, putting engine parts in, bringing the bikes in. So in other words, he's getting this shop ready to start selling bikes. So him and his friend, and to describe them both, they're both around about 6'2", 6'3". They go into the cellar, a bit of a party, just a normal drink. They're having a drink and just getting ready because he's happy about it. His friends encouraging him and so on. And as the story goes from what they told me, two of them sensed something down there that was so strong that they both fled. They both got out of there. And they both told me this at the time. So as time goes on, one of my friends said to me, have you found out about what happened at, I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning, at Martin's shop? And I said, no, I don't know, he's not told me. But eventually, we meet up, and he told me what happened. And I said, well, you know, what's... Because I used to question him about it and say, well, what you experienced down there, it sounds maybe paranormal. But I'm not jumping to conclusions. And he said, well, everything that happens to you is that. I said, okay, maybe it is. So what transpires is this. The police contact him, and the police say to him, how long have you had this shop for? And he says, about 3 or 4 months. Everything's going in. It's all getting ready. I'm ready to open soon. Okay. They said, we want access to the shop. So he said, right, we can't tell you at the moment what's happened, but we want to get down there. So they go down into the cellar, and they use the candles, and they're digging up the floor. And eventually, what happened was they took away children's remains out of the cellar. Right? So, as my friend's telling me this, he said, I know what you're going to say, so I'm not going to say anything. You tell me. He said, well, the police did tell me because it was an open case. It was an old case, but the chap that had the shop before him murdered children and buried them in the cellar. I either murdered them there or they were buried in the cellar. And I said to him, well, what do you think you experienced then? What do you think it was? It was possibly a cry for help, wasn't it? That's what was happening in the experiences that they had down there. So, but still to this day, he says he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe that we have energy that moves on or can make contact if it's in trouble, if that energy is stuck in a certain place and needs help. Well, that's what they did, so that's a true case.
Did this bloke have any links with the Harats? Because I'm thinking of adrenochrome. Is it adrenochrome?
Careful.
Oh.
That is a band.
I'm talking about domestos disinfectant. No, didn't call that. Yes, klaxons. Have they got off at YouTube? No, I don't think so. I think we're all right.
I do think it's perfectly all right, chaps, to mention that case because it did happen, and I don't know how to get any further verification of it, but that's what happened. And before the police went in there and dug the place up, he told me what had happened. He said it was terrible. The atmosphere was terrible. It was all around us and all this. And I said, well, I told you that's what it was like for my mum and dad for 13 years. And my family, my sisters and my brother. The couple that went to see my mum and dad, and the lady, she picked up on it rather quickly. She said, there's something here, isn't there? And mum and dad said, can you feel it? And she said, yes, I can. And then eventually her husband did. But it was different to the Martin and his friend experienced in that cellar of that shop, from what he described. But it could frighten somebody if they didn't know. You know, how can I put it? If you go somewhere, you experience something like that, it's possibly because a horrific event has taken place, and maybe they need some kind of closure.
Well, there was always, rather than the Dominion, Tottenham Court Road in London, I often worked near there. There was something creepy about that area, around there. It really did freak me out. I didn't like being around there, uneasy. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago I found out that behind the Dominion and Tottenham Court Road was a torture chamber where they used to torture prisoners during World War II.
Right.
So I might have been picking something up there that was.
Do you want to go into chat, Chris? Because we're not done chat for a while.
Shall we go to chat and we come back to what you're going to say, John? Shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And it gives Colin a time of a little break here. I like this one. Scared the beaches out of me. Sean Hamer. And we got here the long and the short of them all. It's got here. Okay, thanks, John. Looking like Fockham Hall is going into bed and breakfast. Oh, blimey. Can anyone imagine Chris cooking breakfast? It would be unforgettable. It would be
not to mention on
very hygienically cooked. Now, this is Yorkshire Rose. There is a lot more paranormal activity in the UK than here in Canada. I don't know. What about your Prime Monster? He's a bit paranormal. I sensed evil many times in UK, but only a few times here. That's interesting because it's sparsely populated. Maybe less, And it says here, Paul Green, Shingle Hall closed now. Oh yeah, I mentioned this earlier. It's a private residence now. I wonder if the people that got the EBGs sort of frightened out of them there. Now, it's now a private residence, Shingle Hall. Definite signs. This is Sean Hamer. I was just talking about the Bee Gees. Definite signs of evidence of castrato with the Bee Gees' high vocal range. Ah! Now they're very tight trousers, yes. Kevin Keener, ask Chris what's for breakfast. Chris replies, fuck off. Fock'em special, you know. Actually, the food, you get a plate and a microscope because it doesn't say what quantity of food you get. It's microscopic. Being tight-fisted, of course. Chingle Hall is seriously creepy. This is from Paul Hargreaves. Yeah, I've never been that far north. My passport wasn't in order. Now it says Haji Sean Hamer at the moment. The lemmings are being led by the Pied Piper, and probably always have been. One of the reasons Mark Devling would be and is a good listen. Yes, I like him on here, you know. So, well, three of us started grovelling. Do you reckon?
Well, I mentioned it to him, Chris, but he insisted he's busy and he's going to be busy until his book's published towards the back end of the year. So.
Oh, well, that's life, isn't it, really? Louise Wilcox. Hello, Louise. I stayed a few nights in an unused convent in Hastings. Shall I tell the nun joke? No, better not. I'll probably get fully banned for that note. In late 1980s, it was scary. No, I better not tell the nun joke. It might upset a few religious people. It's a cracker, though. Mark Devlin has stayed at my house after a DJ set AMD a presentation.
Have you put a blue plaque up, Sean, on the outside of the house? Mark Devlin stayed here. Yeah? Okay.
But you could do, couldn't you? Well, I always think there should be a blue plaque, although they pulled it down now, outside the toilet where Tony Blair, shall we say, got up to naughty things with another man. You know, it should be a tourist attraction so that they could have an actor with his trousers down, a Tony Blair lookalike with his trousers around his ankles, so that Japanese tourists can sort of pose next to him. Oh, Tony Blair! Oh,
a bronze statue outside.
That's right. Yes.
In the act. Yeah.
Yeah. You could actually have a themed cafe nearby where they could actually sell things like Blair's faggots. I'm talking about the culinary delight. You know, the Chinese, Victorian delicacy. You know, I'm not talking about anything else, of course. You know, would I? Sean Hamer at our bar in Todmorden. Are you really? Well, there's not many people know that. Yorkshire Rose. We lived with spirits around us all the time, especially from Yorkshire. Mostly people only notice
Sonic. Yeah.
when it is an evil spirit.
Sorry, Yorkshire Rose.
But there are just as many good spirits. Yes. I've told it on a previous show, so I won't go into it too deeply, about the lady with the big eyes that sits in the corner who... a couple that had a young child, and this was a spirit, and it used to move things around the bedroom, and they got a professional in. This professional said it's a Victorian lady that loved children. She's under no danger whatsoever, and she just loves children. And the little girl used to sing Victorian tunes, but she could never have learnt. No, that was in Sandy in Bedfordshire. Right, Paul Hargreaves. Todd Morton has a strange energy, Sean. Would you agree? And Sean Hamer says, yes. Right, and we're going on. Right, Paul Green. My mum's friend and her husband had a farmhouse from the early 1600s. Blimey, they lived a long time, didn't they? Freaked me out visiting as a child. It was a relief to leave the house. I should think it would be, because if it's 1600s, it wouldn't have had a Kazi in it, would it? Sorry.
Can I just say, Chris, do you know about Todmorden?
No.
John?
No,
Yeah, and I know there's all sorts of strange stuff goes on with UFOs and that there. There was that incident, well, I think we talked about it last week, actually, that incident with a guy called
Alan Godfrey.
Name now.
Alan Godfrey?
Adamski. That Zygmunt Adamski was murdered. He left his home in Tingley near Wakefield, and then he disappeared for 5 days. And they found his body on the top of a 12-foot coal heap, and it was and it had all his clothes removed and put back on in a very strange way, and it was put down as a heart attack, and he had very strange burns on the back of his neck as well. So yeah, there's all sorts of weird stuff goes on.
Well,
The couple
Richard D.
that
Hawke,
found him was involved in a UFO incident as well.
Yeah. Because Richard D. Hawke covered that on one of his shows, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, Colin.
Yeah, there's a famous monument at the top there on Todmorden, and it was erected. I think it was for the Napoleonic War, the end of the Napoleonic Wars,
Right.
and it was paid for by a certain gentleman, head of a certain family that control the financial system.
Slap my thigh. Beginning with R.
Yes, yeah.
I think we can all guess what that one is, boys and girls, can't we? Right. Well, we got here the town hall, which is like the Kabar of Todmorden. Kabar, rather, sits at the crux of three major roads, ley lines, and it's on the CIA-fed PSYOP alien agenda map too. Didn't even know there was an alien agenda map. So that's interesting. That's interesting, Sean. Yeah, I'll be interested to find out more about that agenda map. So that makes some more tiresome chat around the town. That's interesting. Now, this is a very interesting one from Ralph. Oh, excuse me. Todmorden translates
Modern,
as death murder in German.
indeed.
Interesting. This is Madge. Hello, Madge. Nothing but demons, evil spirits from ancient times when the fallen angels came to earth. Nothing more. Very interesting. And then we've got here rumour. This is from Sean Hamer. Rumour has it that Uncle H wanted to relocate the town hall of Todmorden to Germany. No idea if there is any evidence for that claim.
I suspect that is just bullshit, to be honest, Sean.
Yes.
It's more. I don't know. I might be wrong, but anyway.
This is Louise Wilcox. The experiences we have had haven't been bad, bar one at in-laws' first house that liked to try to scare. Another was a young woman who would show herself to hubby but throw things when I was in there.
So you had a love rival then, Louise.
Yeah.
A spiritual love rival. Oh.
That's interesting, isn't it? I wouldn't mind a Randy love rival, Randy woman. Oh, by the way, that's the cure for Ken. He's got a bit of a cold, and I said you need to go to bed with a hot woman. Right, as all the feminists now switching off. The town cry says, "I'm with the spirits tonight." Jim Bean and his mate Jack Daniels. Next Sunday I might. Oh no, you're not there next Sunday. Sunday I might crack the nun joke. You never know. Sean Haber, that's one of the ways to gain entry, spirits. That's right. And we've got here Louise Wilcox. The young woman was at a flat at Raffles, Northolt. Apparently, she took her own life when boyfriend died or left her. Oh, that's sad, isn't it? That's very sad. Poor girl. Now, it says here, Louise Wilcox, RF Northolt, Ouija boards are dark magic. Did you know you used to be able to buy in the 60s Ouija boards in toy shops? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it could even later than that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yorkshire, as much, I agree with you. Good spirits do not interfere with us or attempt to communicate except for very good reasons and are rare. Anything else is not to be messed with. Pure evil. And then we've got here, wow, sounds like you were given a leave now and nothing more will be said. Warning, John.
Well, it certainly worked.
Well, you didn't need any laxatives that day.
Wow. Oh, God, don't talk about it anymore. Sorry.
Well, what I saw, you think you're about, what, 13, 14 years of age. Excuse my language, it scared the living shit out of me.
Well, I was 18, so I wasn't a child,
Aunt Sally, I had an experience with friends and a Ouija board very similar to what John just described.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be pretty creepy. Paul Hargreaves, you can converse with spirit. That is what magic is all about.
Very
Because I
cool.
remember somebody, what was it? I think it's Dave Starbuck, said, "Oh, you're a magician." No, he said, "I'm an illusionist, not a magician." He was an illusionist, not a magician. Big difference.
Yeah.
Because they say, "Oh, they're magicians." No, they're not magicians. They're illusionists. He did illusions. My cousin said an Indian doctor will come out of his hardwood wardrobe. Blimey.
Is that a threat? Oh,
Yeah, strange. Sorry.
sorry.
And with Louise Wilcox, at the end of the day, our homes were theirs first. So we are the intruders. And we got here Sean Hamer. I think it's an energetic feedback loop of stored and amplified mental energy born out of our collective embracing of distortions and our faith in the promise of future fantastical imaginings. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Needs a bit of thought, that one, but that is interesting. Then we've got here Sean Hatchie rather, sorry, Sean. I'd love to chat with Mark Devlin. Oh, blimey, I think Mark Devlin's ears are burning tonight, isn't he? And his crew with Caroline. It would be wonderful. What radio, Caroline? I think that's gone now. Oh no, Caroline Stevens probably. It says here, Sean Hamer, religion is the best example of mass delusional psychosis, manifesting real world changes en masse.
That's what doctors say.
Really? That's interesting. And we've got here, bang on, Sean. Then we've got David Jacobs. Congratulations on getting the great John Hamer on again. Impressive. You mean His Royal Highness?
The check's in the post, mate.
Well, we've got loads in chat. I think we'll. I'm terribly sorry. I can't read all yours out, but after the show, we do read what your comments, because I think we'd be here for another couple of hours reading them out. So to kind of wind up, have you anything to say, Colin? You've got it.
Just that everything that I've encountered hasn't been evil. Not I've never encountered anything like that. There was one visit to Chingle Hall with some friends, and one of them, Darren, he could be quite sarcastic about things, and so he got his fingers burnt with the batteries. That was one. And on the same night, we're at the top of the stairs, and I'm sat down, and he's in front of me, and Fred sat in his camping chair. And Darren said, "The monk will be coming across the lawn soon to get his breakfast," because it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And because Chingle Hall is very famous, for the monks and the priests and so on. And he got smacked in the face. So he landed back onto me, and both Fred and I just burst out laughing. But he was physically punched in the face, which bruised damaged his nose. So, and I wouldn't say that was evil. I think they were just trying to say to him, stop it. And so that's the only time I've known of anyone to be hurt was Darren, and he was hurt again there on a visit without me. He was in one of the rooms. I don't know what he said. He's with another chap that I know, and he said he was being sarcastic again. There was footsteps up the stairs, shadows along the wall. If anybody's been that's in chat, they'll know the layout. So along the corridor towards the front room, I think they call it Eleanor's room. Not sure, I can't remember. But at the front of it is the lamp, and he's burnt. So he's burnt badly on his arm, 2 burn marks. And all I got was a couple of days after the phone call. He said, "Where were you?" I said, "I couldn't make it." And he said, "I got attacked again." So I said, "Well, you keep being sarcastic, these things happen." He said, "Well, how come is it you can be sarcastic sometimes and nothing happens to you?" I said, I don't know. I really don't know. But his house was, the house he had before he went to Australia, that was haunted. Things used to happen there, such as the door opening on its own. One night he was having a glass of cider. There was a 5p coin somehow got to the top of the cider. He drank it and vomited. It would always happen around him. The bad things, I don't know why, but nothing like that ever happened to me. There was electrical formings in his house right next to me. At the Plume and Feathers, there was electrical formings there. You can smell it, John and Chris, before you hear it. It smells like burning wire. That was those two occasions. But where Darren was concerned, things did happen to him, but nothing bad ever happened to me, touch wood.
Because you're giving off good vibes. You're probably giving off good vibes. That's why it didn't touch you. But your friend Darren may be giving off negative vibes.
Absolutely. And some of the investigators downstairs, when I took him downstairs, and there was tears streaming out of his eyes, his nose is cut and bruised. And one of them said, "Did a bird come through the window? Was it a bat?" Yeah. Well, and so there was two other witnesses there for verification, because his head came back into my chest. He was hit that hard. So when we talk about evil entities, well, thankfully I've never come across them. I've only come across what I believe to be good ones, because there's been no harm whatsoever. So I've no idea about that. I don't know why people would come up with that, because I think that what's happening is there is evil energies, there is evil forces out there, but there's good. And one day I hope the good will prevail.
Well,
absolutely, amen to that.
Yes, I agree. And also, I mean, you've read the book, John. My dad believed to the end of his life that he had a guardian angel looking after him.
Yeah, a fantastic book it was too. And I've said this before, but I'll just say it again for everybody's benefit. Chris's dad's book is just an amazing piece of work, and I was just gripped by it. It's just incredible. It's about his experiences during World War II. My goodness, how that guy survived, I have absolutely no idea. He must have had a guardian angel. Must have.
Well, he said that.
No other explanation for it.
Because when he went in on D-Day, there's tracer bullets whizzing each part all round him, missed him.
Yeah.
And also, he ran across a live minefield. They had to get off the beach.
And that's only 2 incidents. I mean, the book is like that thick, and it's full of incidents like that. He just Charmed Life doesn't even cover it.
That's right. And the amazing thing is, they found out afterwards. They didn't know at the time that only 1 in 6, I think 1 in 6 mines had a detonator in it, because the RAF had bombed all the trains carrying the detonators. So he may have trod on a mine and it didn't go off.
Right.
But and also, please go on to John's website. Where are we?
Could I just say one thing, Chris, before we kind of wrap up? Is that all right?
No, hang on. No, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. You carry on, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is for everyone's benefit out there. Just this last couple of weeks, I've been in my spare moments, which have been fairly few and far between. I've been watching reruns of a series called One Step Beyond, which, for those of you who've never heard of it, it's from the 1950s and 60s, an American TV show. It was like a forerunner of The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. It was that kind of a show. But the big difference between One Step Beyond and the other two is that One Step Beyond, it was all true stories. Now, I think there's dozens and dozens and dozens of episodes, and they're all on YouTube if anyone's interested. But some of those stories are just, it's all black and white and a bit grainy, but some of those stories are just amazing, and they're all true. They all really happened, these stories. Absolutely fascinating series if anybody's interested in the paranormal. Just amazing, yeah.
Well, the button I should have pressed that I didn't press, so press it, was this one. This is John's website, and the falsification of history.co.uk, and of course he can be contacted on this Gmail, so you can freeze frame it if you're watching the recording. And to sort of wrap up, I didn't say anything, but I actually went to a seance once, and the woman that was running it started laughing, so I hit her, because I always believe in hitting a happy medium. Sorry, anyway, striking a happy medium. Terrible joke, that one. Isn't it horrible?
It was not a bad joke. You just told it appallingly.
I know it's bad. I'll have to crack the nun joke one day, but I need requests for that because I might be banned from YouTube.
Yes.
Anyway, I think we can wrap that up there. Anything more to add, Colin, before we go?
Well, that's great. Thanks, Chris and John. And I'd like to come back another time to discuss a few more cases, if I may.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Nice to meet you.
And thanks, John, for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
And thank everybody in chat and everybody's going to comment on that. It really is appreciated. Thank you very much. And it just leaves me to say, please join us same time, same place next week. And also, additionally, the Naughty Show, talking about something that we can't mention on Screw YouTube. And you'll be able to find out more about that. It'll be a couple of days' time because I've been solid on the internet for a couple of days and I'm a bit sort of like this. So I need a break tomorrow. So it will be on, if you look on, where is it? That's it. If you look on there, say near the end of the week, it'll have links to a BitChute and you'll be able to hear hopefully the radio version of it. But it's certainly educational. I learned a lot last night. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. And remember, whatever happens, have a laugh. And good night.
Night, everyone.